Okay, Jordan, welcome back. New season. Well, let's start off with the big news this week about the training facility, city approval, and also we're moving towards developing Malibu and return to Coliseum. Just describe the culture and impact this organization is building locally.
Yeah, it's for some of us who have been here since the beginning, it's really an incredible moment to see where we are from an infrastructure standpoint, from where we've come from. It's remarkable support in the city council for us to be able to move forward with making this more of a permanent home, and what that does for us and all the work that we're already doing in the community. I think it's directly connected, right? Like, we don't get the support to make this a home if we're not out actively backing up our core values and our fundamental principles as an organization with our day-to-day work in the community here in Oakland, and radiating out from that. So I think it's really cool to see. I tell everybody I get to come to work at the best place in the world, every single day. So on that side of things, it's fun. And then the impact that it has for us, not just in the technical department, to see all of the teams really in one place and have a home, but throughout the work in the front office and other arms of the club. So it's an exciting week. I think there's more good news ahead, which is even more exciting. And then I think this year, the buzz around this year is more electric, I think, than it has been, just because of those things and the steps that the club's taking to be really rooted in the community for the future.
Okay. Now let's go to the team. Some changes, some collection of returnees. Just what was the philosophy with roster building this offseason?
Yeah, we knew that there was a few positions of need, obviously, going into last year. It was finishing last year and heading into this year. We needed to add a few center backs. We needed to add some younger players and kind of go from an average age that was a little bit closer to 28 and dip down closer to 25, where we'd like to be in terms of overall average. There's some promotions in there where Tim finished the year on a professional contract, returned, and Etzker from 510, so two younger guys that we're really excited about. But then also, if you look at our defensive line, we got guys with both league experience and high-level international experience. And then also guys that are kind of in that peak age range, right? So it's a new core at the defensive line, where the last few years we've had one or two younger guys, but a lot of the kind of older veterans that have allowed us to become established in the league. And I think it was time for us to take that step forward. And then obviously pushing Hack into the midfield. Our midfield's really strong, and that's kind of the line that connects the dots. Mishi's a new addition as a forward, but he's not a new addition to us because he was in training with us for the latter half of the year, and so excited to get the ball rolling with some of those guys added too.
Can you talk a little bit about some lessons learned last year competing in USL, and what you guys as a team noticed about the kind of teams that succeed in this league, and how that, to Jonathan's question, how that kind of informed how you guys went about this offseason?
Yeah, well, last year was the first time we really utilized internationals in our roster. Prior to that, we really didn't have anybody leaving for international duty, and that came with a whole host of different challenges. Gold Cup last year, if you look at our form prior to Gold Cup and our form after, it's a significant difference. And this year now you have Cozy in the mix for a national team. Trayvon got called in last year, so it's something that's, we spent a lot of time this offseason talking about not only the technical and coaching side of things, but also the performance and the human side of things, and how we take care of these guys when they're traveling all over the world to compete for in matches that have a lot of different emotion and intensity in there. It's clearly beneficial to have guys like that, in the roster. We got Hack, who's competing to get into Copa America, and the potential to be playing against Messi and what that brings to the squad. And you see the preseason game with Tamakis playing against Jordi Alba and Messi and these guys, and obviously that type of experience is something that we want to have within our roster. And we know that it's something that brings success across the league, but it also has its own challenges. So I think those are some of the things that when we shut down last season and we started to see what we learned and how we apply those learnings going into 2024, that was a big part of it. But then also, we're getting some more mature, younger players stepping into the roster, players who've spent more time in the first team, which is just a product of kind of our process, where Project 510 was 2 years ago versus where it is now. And so you saw that a little bit at the end of the year with Luis Saldana and Etzker. And so I think those are also things that we assessed in the offseason and analyzed where those young players fit in for us across the entire season, and what that process looks like between first team and second team. So those are a couple things that we kind of focus on. There's if you say what do teams across the league do to find success, Orange County success, Phoenix's success, they're different, right? If you look at the last few winners, what I think is that there's some clubs in the league that are looking at really well-established players as their route to success. There's also some clubs in the league that are saying, hey, that mix of veteran and youth is going to bring us success. And so I think it's actually a really cool time to see how the USL is evolving. It's not the too long ago that we had all the MLS2 teams in, and so the knock-on effect of them leaving and what that's done for the USL over the past really 2 seasons, I think is something that we're still finding out about, and that will shape some of what the USL looks like this year. So it's really cool to see how different clubs are establishing their strategy, and we're trying to be unique, but also make sure that we're aligned with all the values of the club and how we build our sporting strategy.
Yeah, last one for me. Are you guys still using transfer?
We are.
Yeah, last offseason you told me that was kind of your first. That was how you guys entryway into that international club.
Exactly.
So what were conversations with international players who, like, for example, in Georgia or Haiti? What are those conversations like when you guys are pitching Oakland to agents or players? What's that like?
I mean, the cool thing is most people know Oakland. It's a global town. Everybody is familiar with at least some aspect of Oakland, whether it's the Raiders or the Warriors, or if they're up on social history and civil rights and things like that. So I think that's already a different conversation. But when you talk about Oakland soccer, USL Championship, and things like that, that's still kind of growing in the global marketplace. So Transfer Room's one tool, obviously. That's the way that we were put in touch with Gagi. And I think it was a really cool opportunity for us to see a player who had, won the league in parts of the world that often aren't really connected to the United States, in that way. But as we did our homework and we looked at the level of the league that he was playing in and Europa League qualifiers and things like that we'd seen him go through, as well as people that we know in that neck of the woods that could give us feedback on how that translates. The Transfer Room platform is a great connector, right? And we're seeing that with business from South America into North America into Europe and other parts of the globe. They're really expanding as a marketplace for players. It's not the only source, just like the other sources aren't the other. So with conversations around Mishi and things like that, that wasn't a Transfer Room conversation. That was our scouting department, our relationships, and how we can find a player like that. But I think for us, what it is the sources for players are continuing to grow as we grow. And I think what's really cool about that is we maintain that same mix of localness and globalness as a priority. And I think the one intended consequence of working with Transfer Room was also to bring those eyes to the local players that we are growing through our roster. So we had a couple conversations in the offseason where people that we met on Transfer Room were aware of some of Danny Gomez's performances. And those types of connections are, I think, really cool ones to make. People who are learning about the United States more than just the MLS. And I think that growth is exponential window to window, but certainly year to year.
One last one.
I mean, going back to the roster, injuries played such a factor. And I look at the roster now, there's a lot more depth. Hackshaw going to the midfield, it's almost like a new player, almost like a new signing. Just how does having more depth impact how this team operates now going forward?
For sure. And the depth is it's really interesting. Like, I think we wanted to create, in a lot of ways, competition for positions that make it difficult for Noah. And it's not in a bad way, but it's in a really good way where, guys look around and they see that I'm not a locked starter. I have to show up and perform, and there's another guy who's going to keep his level really high. And I think that we've seen that in preseason where there's a lot of competition in different positions. We feel like we have some of the best wingbacks in the league. If you really look at the players that we have in Memo and Tamakis and Babu, and then adding Justin to that mix, like we feel like we have some real good options in a lot of different positions. And so the depth, look, it's a long campaign. It's 34 games, and I think that there needs to be a certain amount of stability, people who really lock in and give us good performances week in and week out. I don't know if we'll have Ironman like we did last year with Paul and Barbier getting really close like that I think is that's a testament to their quality and their ability to maintain their level week in and week out. But at the same time, we want to be able to rotate on long road trips, or we want to be able to give other players kind of certain experiences and throughout the season. And then that means that we have a lot of sharp tools in the toolbox for Noah when we hit that business end of the season. And now he knows that he can look down his bench and he's got difference makers, players who have shown him throughout the season as well.
And just to add to that, I look at the back line as that's the big change. Talk about those characteristics. What are those differences with the players you brought in?
Yeah, look, we wanted to get guys who are a little bit more mobile. Not that the previous group wasn't, but I think the mobility was a priority for us. So players like Cam Riley, who can play on the right or the left, but also play center back where they're bombing and they're progressing the ball really deep into zone 4 and the opponent's 18. Those players who can cover a lot of ground. Justin is an addition where we're looking at him as a left back, a left center back, a left wing back, because he can cover a lot of that ground. And same thing with Gagi, left and right. Niall, who can play center and left. We wanted guys who were comfortable, versatile, but really able to cover a little bit more ground. As I know Noah was interested in pushing the press maybe a little bit higher this year. So that's something that we had to prepare for. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Yeah.